Indy Moguler.
This week on Indy News, our friend is in the running for $1 million, a tiny new action cam, the winners in our 2012 Showreel Contest, and new year, new lenses. Hey Indy Mogulers, Griffin here. This week, manufacturers in Las Vegas will reveal 20,000 new products at the Consumer Electronics Show. So far, nothing terribly exciting, just an action cam that's a little bit smaller than the GoPro Hero 3, costs less, but it doesn't do as much. A whole lot more exciting than that is the fact that awesome director Chris Crutchfield edited this commercial, which is a top 5 finalist in the Doritos Crash the Super Bowl contest. That means it's in the running to air during the Super Bowl and could win $1 million. You'll find a link in the video description to view the finalists and vote. After I received my Panasonic GH3, I kept my GH2 and sold my TM700 camcorder. Now that I have 2 DSLR bodies, I want to increase my lens count. For this kind of camera, lots of people recommend 3 lenses. These 2 Panasonic zoom lenses that were released last year, and this Voigtlander 25mm prime. Some say these are must-have lenses, but together they cost almost $4,000. I've been checking eBay, but they're so new that there's not much of a used market yet. So what makes these lenses so expensive? Prime lenses are usually cheaper because they require less lens elements, and the Voigtlander 25mm lacks autofocus and image stabilization, yet it still costs over $1,000. That's because it has an incredible maximum aperture of f.95. Lenses at f2.8 perform decently in low light, but this lens is a low light beast, nearly 9 times the light. This generous aperture also means extremely shallow depth of field. The Panasonic 12-35 and 35-100mm zooms are pricey because they feature optical image stabilization, quiet autofocus, and most importantly, an f2.8 constant aperture, meaning the picture doesn't darken when you zoom in. For most zooms, moving the lens opening away from the sensor means less light, but more expensive constant aperture lenses use a combination of optics to ensure that the apparent aperture stays the same throughout the zoom range. Plus, these lenses are parfocal, meaning they don't lose focus when you zoom. Most DSLR lenses are varifocal, meaning if you zoom in, focus, then zoom out, you need to refocus. Considering I don't want to spend nearly $4,000, I could rent these lenses, but I need my lenses handy all the time. So today I'll show you the 3 lenses I bought on eBay for less than $1,000 total. I'm trying to replace this lens, the Panasonic 14-140mm kit lens. It has a great zoom range, quiet autofocus, and optical image stabilization, but at over $600, I hate how dark it is. Starting at f4 and worsening to f5.8 when zoomed all the way in. My Sigma 30mm is much better in low light, but I could use more lenses to fill in the focal range. Starting with 14mm, great for wide shots and on my glide cam, but when I'm shooting at dark wedding venues, f4 is not good enough. So I picked up a Panasonic 14mm, normally $300, but I found a new one direct from Hong Kong for $180. f2.5, also written on lenses as 1:2.5, is 1 1/3 stop brighter than f4, which makes it much more usable in this dark church. The compact pancake lens design means even though the lens opening is tiny, it's so close to the sensor that lots of light gets in. Normally $1,200, I found this used Olympus 50-200mm for $699. It may not cover as much zoom range as my kit lens, but it does it with twice the light. A bigger aperture means a heavier lens with its own tripod collar. It requires a $100 adapter for my camera and lacks image stabilization, but I'm looking forward to tighter, brighter shots in dark venues. Finally, I need a wide zoom for my secondary camera, and I found this used Canon FD 35-105mm for only $50. It's manual aperture, manual focus, and requires an adapter, but it's a real bargain because it's parfocal and constant aperture. f3.5 means it's twice as bright as my kit lens at 35mm and almost 3 times brighter at 105mm. When I shot this test footage, I noticed in wide shots it wasn't focusing to infinity, so I loosened some screws at the base of the lens to adjust the flange, how close the lens is to the sensor, and that fixed it. Works fine now. I asked Indy Mogulers to send in their show reels for 2012, and I even made my own musical reel for what I covered on Indie News last year. But what you all sent in just blew me away. Such amazing work here. You can click on any of the videos and they're all great. In fact, if I was a web designer, I would build an interactive map with all your reels on it so that if anyone looking for a videographer in their area could watch your video, they'd hire you. I'm sure of it. Such amazing work here. In fact, if someone can do that, you should do that. But my top 3 picks come from the US, Israel, and Sweden. Nick Acosta in LA produced some highly professional commercials in 2012. Eos Karlsson in Stockholm is a stuntman who is definitely worth hiring. And Indy Height in Tel Aviv has a high-energy mix of gorgeous cinematography and visual effects. Great job, everyone, and thanks to Warner Brothers, we have some Hobbit swag to send to our top 2 winners. I wish I had a 3rd place prize, but hopefully, Nick, with all that commercial work you've been doing, you'll be just fine. So check out the Doritos contest entry that Chris Crutchfield edited, my Indie News show reel from 2012, this week's new and notable video contests, and all 109 show reels from Indy Mogulers. Seriously, you can click on any of them and you will be impressed. Thanks for watching.